sights to show you.
Hell yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Horse and Naked Discourse on this fine Sunday evening. Tonight we're talking about a movie that is really bizarre, really strange, fun. It's fun. It is fun. Underseen, I think. It's called John Dies at the End, which seems like a spoiler alert, but is it? Anyway, I watched it today. It's a very interesting movie that I had never seen before. Hopefully Seth's stuff works out well so he can get in the conversation, because I know he really loves this movie. I think he read the book, and I've never read the book, but I saw the movie. So let's see if Seth, how you doing, man? What's going on?
Doing okay so far. Looks like everything's coming through fine.
Good. So, I know sometimes you get a shoddy connection. Yeah, this is another one of those movies that you really love that seems to nobody has ever talks about. Nobody, underseen, I'd say. What do you think?
Oh, totally. And I think the 5-star rating thing that you put up today kind of shows how little people have seen it. You know, like you put that up, and then not too long after you put up 28 days later, and like the vote-in count is significantly different between the two, you know?
Yeah, when I checked before the show, it was 40 people out of 56,000. So, I mean, that's, of course, not everybody votes on a 5-star, but I mean, compared to 300 plus for 28 Days Later. But to be fair, that is an extremely well-known movie versus John Dies at the End. And for the record, if you have Max, John Dies at the End is streaming on Max currently. I think there was another one too. Let me check real fast. But yeah, interesting movie. It was a lot of fun. Plex, whatever the hell Plex is. It was a lot of fun. I like the characters, and I like the beginning mostly. The first couple acts. The end was a little not great for me, but overall I enjoyed it. And plus they left off like it was going to be more. Nate also got the chance to watch this one. I think you've seen this before, right, Nate?
Yeah, I saw it when it came out. I had the DVD, but this is maybe the second time I'd seen it.
Weird movie.
Very weird. It's like, there's a lot of H.P. Lovecraft there, who, of course, is always weird. And then Don Coscarelli just makes weird movies. I mean, he's made his straightforward movies, but the Phantasm movies are weird. So this just seems like stuff that was right up his alley.
Yeah.
I know Seth's a big Phantasm fan. And,
oh, yeah.
This felt like, I know Seth's a big Supernatural fan, and almost had shades of Supernatural.
Oh, yeah.
Paranormal investigator type things. So I can see why Seth really likes it.
Well, there were some fun things that I wanted to mention. By the way, just so you know, our followers, and this is weird right here, the Meat Monster.
It reminded me of something out of Red Dwarf.
Oh, that's cool.
Red Dwarf had weird things like that, like weird creatures. There was one episode, and I wonder if it was inspired, because there was one episode of the Red Dwarf TV show where they had like this DNA contraption. This is probably like 1990, 1991 episode, 92. And they had this this machine that would mess with your DNA, and it turned the android on the show into a human. But at the end, it turned Lister's lunch, which was a chicken vindaloo, it's like an Indian food, into a creature like this. It looked like it was like a food creature. And when I saw it, I was like, it reminds me of the Vindaloo Beast in Red Dwarf.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it could have been. Yeah, I thought. First of all, I love this design.
Yeah, it looks great. Robert Kurtzman, man, does a guy? I mean, between this and the Kevin Smith stuff, he makes some weird creatures.
Let's not forget the Dick doorknob too, right, Seth? That's one of your favorite parts, right?
That door could not be opened.
Yeah, so Seth, what I want to do here mostly is try to raise awareness for this movie, because I do believe if people gave it a shot, they like it. It's fun. The characters are fun. John's named the main character. But there's scenes in the movie that I really like where like he's getting called from John while John's in front of him. Am I dead yet or whatever? I don't remember what's going on exactly, but it's like
Isn't it?
It's like what the fuck is going on in this movie? Can you kind of tell us a little bit about this, Seth, if you will? Like, is there more insight to the story? Because somebody on our page did say they liked the book a little bit better. Can you kind of go into detail and maybe tell us what was different versus movie?
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually a huge fan of all four of the books. There's four in the series. First one is John Dies at the End. The second book is called This Book is Full of Spiders. Seriously, don't touch it. The third book is called What the Hell Did I Just Read? And the fourth book is called If This Book Exists, You're in the Wrong Universe. Really fun series, written by a complete and total smartass. And
phenomenal titles too.
That's what I think. Yeah. I mean, this guy's hilarious. Like sometimes Amber and I will watch him do like live streams, and like he's got such great like deadpan humor. It's awesome. But so the books are really good, and actually, and I feel like Don Coscarelli was actually the perfect person to take this this movie, because I feel like his style kind of matches like the attitude of the book, you know, and the flow of the book. Now, of course, as always with any adaptation, you're not going to get everything in there. So there's a good chunk of the book that's actually missing from this movie. This movie, it does, I think it does fairly well of getting like the kind of like the core story in there, but there's so many more awesome stuff from the book that kind of got left out, unfortunately.
And there's a lot going on in the movie anyway. I felt like there could have been two movies here.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, absolutely. And that's like one of the things I wrote that article about a while back, where like they could use a lot of stuff that they omitted for this movie and make a completely separate movie, and they probably should. But so I think it's very close to the book in a lot of regards. I mean, a lot of the lines of dialogue are straight from the book. There's just the big differences really is, there's this whole subplot in the first book involving Dave finding a dead body in a shed and not going anywhere near it until the end. And there's a kind of a reveal of who the body is. And there's just so much. So like, I think if you like this movie, even moderately, I really highly recommend checking out the book series. There's so much more to this story than what you get in this one movie. This is the very condensed version of that.
Based
story.
on the titles alone, they sound like we're checking out.
The titles like had me cracking up. Then he has his other series where the titles are like Zoe punches the future in the dick.
Yeah.
Zoe is too drunk for this dystopia. I mean, that's great. Like, I want to read those books.
So is that your pen name, Seth, or because it sounds like you?
Well, it's funny because Amber always tells me that I remind her of David Wong or Jason Pargin, as his real name is. But
So, right off the cuff, I want to talk about he's chopping a guy's head off in the snow with this. This is probably, to be honest, I like the movie overall, but this might be my favorite thing about this whole movie. So he's chopping this guy's head off in the snow with the swastika on his tongue and whatever, and he breaks the axe handle. He goes to the hardware store, gets a new axe handle. He ends up breaking the axe head. So he has to get the new axe head, and then the guy comes back with a new head. This is like a Riddler thing with a new head, and he says, "That's the weapon of my demise." And he's like, "Is it?" I'm like, "This is how this movie starts."
It seems like there was a riddle or joke or question like that was popular back in the 80s. And I can't remember. Like, and this guy's my age, I think. I think the writer is like maybe a year older than me, and that reminded me of a joke from the 80s. and I can't remember what it was, but yeah, it's almost like, you know, if a tree falls in the forest, did it make a sound kind of thing? Like, is that really the axe? Because it's a totally different axe.
It's a totally different axe at this point, and it's a different head.
Yeah, that's the axe that slayed me. Or is that
Yeah, no, it's not. Actually, you know, it's I had to pause it at that point. I'm like, that was one of the best, and we just talked about this. Best openings to movies. That might not be one of the best, but I fucking love that opening to that movie. That like, because I'll be honest with you, Seth, I was not looking forward to watching this because I saw the trailer and I didn't know what to think. And then I saw that and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Let's do this. You know, I had to pause it and start playing it again because I was like, I'm ready now. So
yeah, it's like one of those weird things too. It's like because I first stumbled upon this movie by mistake, or not really by mistake, but just like I followed Magnet Releasing on Facebook, and I was just scrolling through one night while drunk, and I just see this poster for this movie, and the title alone had me laughing my ass off, right? And then I read the synopsis about it, and it's about a drug called soy sauce, and I laughed even harder, you know. And so then I went to work, and this is like when me and Amber were just friends, and like I was telling her all about it, and then I wanted to make sure I read the book, so I ordered the book, and yeah, I mean, this like in that beginning is
just based on the title and the soy sauce drug.
Yeah, and like so I knew like that title alone. That's, you know, Randy Marsh walking down the street with his big balls in a barrel, like calling a movie John Dies at the End. It's fucking hilarious to me. You know, and it's obviously a lie, but it's funny how many people literally take it like so literal. Like, why would I see that movie if it's title? It's like, you think they would actually spoil the end of the movie in the title like that? Like, it was clearly sarcasm.
Yeah, and I was actually expecting him to be dead at the end of the movie, so I'm glad he wasn't. But even in the middle of the movie, you think he's dead. And it's dude, this is one of those movies that it's like I don't have much to say about it. It's like, I don't either, because I don't know what to say about this movie, because you know, I don't know. It's such a fucking weird ass movie. And then not to mention you have Paul Giamatti in there, and the end of his part was excellent. And then there you go. You got Clancy Brown.
Yep,
playing some kind of like, I like the scene with the meat monster, and he just gives him the phone, and it just falls to pieces.
Exercise it or whatever.
Yeah,
And then you got Glenn Turman in there, who, you know, playing the cop, and you know,
what was he in? Because I recognized him.
He was in Cooley High. That was like the early movie that he did. That he was star of. He was on Different World, I believe. I think it was Different World, and he was on the 4th season of Fargo, and he was fantastic on there, the Chris Rock season. But he's been around forever, and I don't know. I just always liked him. But yeah, Paul Giamatti is one of my favorites. So, but you know, I want to read the books because I'll be honest, like the film has so many cool things about it and things I really liked. But as a whole, I don't know if it worked completely. I love the cast. I love the characters. I really I want to follow these characters. They're so entertaining. They have good chemistry. The actors are really cast well. But I just, after the first 30 minutes, I start to kind of I don't know really what's the point and what's really going on. And I don't know if I'm gelling with this. And it's almost like if it was a little more coherent, maybe it would be easier. I mean, I don't know. It just, maybe it's too weird for its own good, almost that I wanted it. I want to like it a whole lot more because I like a lot of the setup and where I think it's going. And it just goes in this. I don't, but I mean, it has these little great moments where you're laughing. I'm laughing the whole time. I mean, the movie's funny as hell. All the little things that are happening. I got that the humor is. That's why I think I'd like the books, because the sense of humor in it, and the titles alone. I'm like, and I know the guy worked for Cracked, right? So it's this bizarre, off the wall humor, which
Yep.
You know, I've always liked off the like. Have you ever read the comics Milk and Cheese?
Mm-mm.
I don't know if you guys might dig that. It's just one I read back in college. It's called Milk and Cheese: Dairy Products Gone Bad, and it's just about this milk carton and this cheese that have gone bad past their date. They just go around doing awful shit. They're like alive and they're doing and it's just funny. Like, you know, they're killing people, beating people up. Dog, it's crazy. But it was just, and it, you know, the writer's Evan something, and it was a friend of mine introduced me to him. So there's just this, it's, I don't know, it's this odd humor that is kind of subculture, it's kind of punk, and I don't know. There's just something overall of the movie, and maybe it's just because it is so weird, and because it's, you know, there just seems to be something missing. I don't know. And I went and read some reviews to see, well, maybe someone could point me in the right direction of understanding it more. And it seems like a lot of the people who watched it felt the same way, like that they did. Like there was a lot of great ideas, but nothing is cohesive. Nothing comes together. And that's how I felt about it. Like, I don't know what I just watched. I don't know.
I can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the majority of the movie is actually pretty dead on accurate to how things happen in the book, with minor differences. But then it gets to a certain point in the movie where it literally jumps from point A to point C, you know, like there's like a lot in the book that kind of helps along with the, you know, where they get to that destination that was left out. You know, they were getting the core element of the book in there. Well, that's why I highly recommend either reading the book or getting the audiobooks. They're all available on Audible if you have Audible. And
that's what it feels
they're
like.
well done as well. But I definitely understand what you're saying, because like I get everything, because like I'm knowledgeable of the books. Yeah, but like if I was someone who saw the movie without reading it, I'd probably be in that same position, you know, where something doesn't feel right. But definitely check those out when you get a chance.
So Doug, go ahead, Ray.
No, I was going to say, I was just looking at them online to see if they're available. Audiobooks are available. I'd like to have the paper copies, so I'm going to see if I can track them down. Go ahead, Nate.
It's just, again, like, and I like the cast. That's what I think. It's almost frustrating to the point where I'm like, I like these two actors. And
I did
characters, too. And they have, like, the guy that plays John kind of felt like Brad Pitt meets Colin Farrell meets Treat Williams. Like, he had this, but there was this, just like the punk scene where he's like, this song, it says something, he goes, I don't know what he does. He says something funny. I mean,
he says something like, the song's about a guy I know. Never mind, that never happened. And
and it was like, I love that. I love the little things like that, and I love his character. I love his humor, and like he feels like Brad Pitt in like Fight Club or something. Like he's not real.
Oh yeah, or 12 Monkeys even.
Like and he's like this, like just oddball character. And I think the guy even said, like, the guy that played him said, I kind of questioned if John actually exists or he's just a figment of the main character's imagination. Because this guy seems like he's kind of the opposite of him.
Yeah.
And
just like a Fight Club situation.
Yeah, it feels almost like, and I do get Fight Club vibes. Like the writer of Fight Club is kind of very punk, oddball, funny, satirical writer. And I don't know, there's kind of like this DNA of a lot of things there. Like, I mean, someone even compared it to Wayne's World or Bill and Ted, or like there's.
I see where you're coming from on that, actually, and Seth, maybe you can interject after because there are a lot of scenes where John's like kind of comatose when other people are around, or he's not there when.
Just in his head.
Yeah, so like, well, think about like the other thing is his girlfriend, the one that has the phantom limb, which I thought was great, by the way.
Yeah.
But she was only the only one to be able to open the door. I thought that was so cool. But no, but think about it. Dave seems to have a thing for her, but she's dating John, I think. So it's like the Marla situation almost in Fight Club. You know, he's having all these conversations with Marla, but Tyler's fucking her. You know, so it's
and she looks different, which is another. He has to be a Red Dwarf fan, because there's a episode of Red Dwarf where, what was it? Oh, they meet this girl, they rescue this girl, and each one of them sees a different girl. Like because she's actually a engineered, like she's created, she's a gelf or something, like a genetically engineered life form, I think is what it was. And basically she's a pleasure gelf. So she's like, she looks and does whatever like is your dream girl or whatever, like, or your dream mate, right? So each guy sees a different woman and with different looks and different personalities, but they're all having the same conversation, but they're all seeing someone different. And what the funny kicker of the joke was, like Kat, who's the cat humanoid character, is so vain that they say, "You mean if I go in there, I'm going to see the object of my desire?" And like, yeah, he goes, "Oh man, a female version of me. I can't wait." So he walks in and it's just him. So he just sees himself. Talks to himself because that's who he's supposed to love with. That's his dream mate, is himself. But yeah, the more and more I watch, like, this guy had to have been a Red Dwarf fan.
We were just asked what we're talking about. John dies at the end. Fun ass movie. It's hard to follow in spots, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I still obviously never seen Red Dwarf. But Seth, can the whole Tyler Durden aspect that we were just kind of discussing, are they two separate people in the book?
Yeah, they're two separate people. Actually, the character John Cheese is actually a character of Jason's friend, who he kind of leases to him for these books as long as he gets to have some input. So there's actually really fun passages in the books that are from John's point of view, and they're fucking outrageous because the character is so outrageous. But yeah, they are two separate people.
Okay. Yeah, because this movie's kind of a trip. And I mean, so far that a dog drives a car and saves the day.
Talking to a hot dog, and like my daughter, I turned the movie on. She hadn't been watching the movie, and she came in and she saw the guy.
So did Helena.
Hot dog up to her. She just started laughing because she had no idea what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, Helena walks. Is like, is that a phone? I'm like, I think so. Such an odd movie, man. Yeah, I definitely want to check out the books, if anything, because they seem like a lot of fun. Man, what else is there that you'd like to talk about with this one, Seth? This is something you've been wanting to talk about, so I want to make sure you get your full say in.
Yeah. What the hell was I gonna say? I had something. Shit.
I don't want to jinx anything, but I think whenever you jump into the chat before the
show, yeah,
so you can come back. You should do that more often. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, so Paul Giamatti actually helped get this movie made. He was one of the producers on it. I guess he really wanted to work with Don Coscarelli, and I think he was a fan of the book as well. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. That someone of that caliber of an actor was so invested in doing this like really silly B movie. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you expect to see somebody like Clancy Brown in something like this, maybe. But Paul Giamatti's a good one.
Just a fun fact too. Yeah. The character Amy in the movie is actually a combination of two different characters from the book. One is Dave's girlfriend from the first half of the book. Her name is Jennifer Lopez. And then the character Amy, who appears in the second half of the book, who's she's a redhead. And she has a lot more personality. Like, one of the things that both Amber and I agree on is that nothing against the actress that played Amy in this, but like that's because it's a combination of two different characters. Like she's just not quite right for the story. But I do like the cast overall. I think the cast was really good, and these are the people I envision anytime I go through the books again. Especially Clancy Brown as Marconi.
I would like to see more Marconi. There wasn't enough of Marconi in this for me. Because first of all, I love Clancy Brown, and is he playing a Russian?
No, he's not supposed to be right. He's just a magician.
Got a hint of an accent. That's why I asked, but I did like him in this role. I love Clancy Brown. Who doesn't love Clancy Brown?
Yeah,
pops up everywhere. He works a lot. Still
He
does.
does.
Yeah. Every once in a while. I mean, the Mandalorian. I mean, he's always out there.
Yeah, I'm glad he got into Star Wars with Rebels.
Oh yeah.
I think the first thing I ever saw him in was Pet Sematary 2. I recognized him was Pet Sematary 2.
Yeah, because I didn't grow up with Highlander.
Neither did I.
I don't know how I miss Highlander. Highlander and Blade Runner were two big movies of the 80s, sci-fi movies that I never watched until I was a teenager.
I've seen the first Blade Runner once, and I've never seen Highlander at all.
It's not bad. Got that great.
Don't push it on me.
Don't push it.
I can't be pushed into doing things. Any more fun facts, Seth?
I know not.
Not that I can really think of. Like, what did you guys feel about the effects overall? Like, especially kind of towards the end.
Oh, they were not kind of the green screen rear projection stuff. Yeah. That was unfortunate because I don't know. It really cheapened the movie. Maybe that's part of why. Because like I'm looking at the practical effects of like what Robert Kurtzman did with the meat monster and things like that. And of course, the little bug creatures and things. I mean, reminded me of like what he did in like Boba Hotep and Phantasm. And, so it had this Don Coscarelli kind of fingerprints there with some of that stuff. Almost where you could say, I mean, we got Angus Scrimm too. We didn't talk about the Angus Scrimm cameo. So it almost felt like it could exist in a Phantasm world. And Phantasm has that supernatural world. I mean, two guys on a hot rod driving around in a muscle car fighting evil. It also seems kind of relative to that. But yeah, that whole finale and just the overall rear projection stuff, like in the car and things. I mean, it was very. But again, I think it would be more acceptable if they really leaned into, like you could get away with that shit. And this movie is so ridiculous and comedic that it could have gotten away with it very well. But it just felt so false, I guess, that I don't know. By then, I was kind of like, I had lost interest in the movie. I mean, to be honest, it just went. It's the opening of the movie is the strongest part. The whole first half hour, first 45 minutes. At the hour mark, I'm starting to like, okay, when is this story gonna happen? Like, when am I gonna? And sometimes I kind of feel like. Was the Paul Giamatti character in the book? Like the interview, I guess it had to be.
Yeah.
Is there more of that
Yeah.
conversation in the book? I almost felt like I wished Paul Giamatti had been more
Oh,
present. Like that conversation had been more. Like, I mean, it's possible that it wasn't there because of the time and the money that Paul Giamatti would cost, even though he was supporting it and wanted to do the movie. But I don't know. It just seemed like there's. I don't know if it needed a stronger script or it needed more length or more time or more money. But there seems like there's a good movie there that was lost because of money and time, maybe. That had to cut stuff. Like you said in the book, there's stuff that's not there that would flesh out that the B that's missing. You said it went from A to C.
Yeah.
But like one critic said, it feels like a lot of great little clips or moments thrown together without any really harmonizing together, like like the opening. Like, what does the opening have to do with the movie? It's this great little thing, but it has nothing to really do with the movie. It's and Marconi's kind of, he shows up, he does that thing, and it's kind of just everything's very. Just needs to be more clarity, I think. There's a clarity missing, like, and it's like they said, it's like there's like a lot of weird ideas thrown in, and a lot of weird stuff for the sake of weird. And so a lot of the negative reviews I read, which it didn't get a very good, it was like 64% or something from critics, and then I read a lot of. I don't just listen to the Rotten Tomatoes. I read like horror site reviews, and they all kind of felt the same way. Like, oh, it's got a lot of great shit, but like, there's something missing, or there's no glue, and I don't know. Maybe that's why it didn't really. Like you said, a lot of people don't like. A few of our viewers have said they don't know it or haven't seen it or haven't heard of it. It's a shame because I think it had just had a lot of good, and I don't know. For me personally, of course, every movie has its fans. For me, it didn't work.
Well, I think for me, I kind of agree with you in a way. I think it was on the verge of being something I could have loved. I think the third act was there were some issues there, like a lot of boobs that helped.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the masks were weird. Like I didn't understand. Like I feel like that's stuff that was probably better described in the book. But it was close to being something that, like, because I did like a good portion of this movie, and there was just and to me when I was watching the first half and a little bit into the last part, I was like, man, I want to follow these characters a little bit more, and I think that's the biggest thing. Or the John and Dave characters are great, but
and they get
don't
separated, and then they're like,
yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It feels like there's a better story, and since you've read them, Seth, is this the best book, or are the other books better? What's your favorite book of the series?
Well, see, I'm very partial to this one, but the first book, it does a little bit of like, there's a little bit of time jump in. Like the first story takes place over quite a bit of period of time. The second book is a lot more linear, and the second book is absolutely fantastic. The third book is probably my least favorite, and the fourth book, I think I would say is my second favorite. And there's actually a pretty clever sort of nod to this title.
Yeah, I got to take a phone call real fast.
Without spoiling, because I'm not saying John does that at the end, but there's a whole aspect with the title that kind of plays into that story. But yeah, I mean, this one is my favorite book, but I think it may be just because it's the first one I read when I was really enthused about it.
Yeah.
And but I would say across the board, all four are really solid. I think. I think, and there's a lot more to the characters of John and Dave. There's a lot more to the character of Amy. It's definitely a lot more to Marconi. Like they like the big chunk that's missing from this movie, from the book. I mean, from the book to this movie, there's a lot of like heavy Marconi related stuff in it. So I would say, like, I mean, I kind of like consider the budget limitations. This is a magnet releasing film. Like,
Yeah.
you got Don Coscarelli, who's not really like a major filmmaker. So like with the budget that they had and the time constraint, I think they did a decent job of getting like sort of like the core idea of the story out there. But I can't stress enough, absolutely check out the book, whether you read it or if you get audiobook, like, while you're working or whatever. But yeah,
I have a feeling the book
I
will
definitely understand a
work.
lot of like your complaints and what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
the
and when you
budget.
and when you do check them out, you gotta let me know what you think.
Okay. Yeah, because despite the budget problems, it apart from this, the rear projection stuff, it's shot very well. The art direction's very good. I mean, that restaurant scene.
Oh yeah.
I love the restaurant location, which was all set. It wasn't a real restaurant, but it looks legit to me. So, and again, there's no bad acting. The acting's all solid. It's just I think it really comes down to script. I think maybe the book. It's possible if the book had things that were cut out, that those things cut out were very important to the audience who aren't familiar with the material to understand it. And that's one of the hard things about when you're adapting something or when you've written something yourself. It, and the audience doesn't always. And like you said, you were able to follow it more because you read the book, so you understood where you were going, who was who, and what was the connection. But for someone coming in completely blind, it's like there's some blind spots there that to me are probably more script problems that are just budgetary cuts. That because there's really, again, apart from the rear projection choice and the script, it's got a whole lot of talent in there, a whole lot of good. It looks good. The acting's good. I'm kind of like these two actors. I kind of was like, where did they go? I know I was looking up what they've done, and they really haven't done much of things that I've seen. I'm like, they're both good looking guys. They both got talent. They're both charismatic. The main character kind of has a Topher Grace kind of vibe to him, and like I said, the other guy kind of reminded me of Brad Pitt a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's not as good, but I kind of thought, like last week we talked about Behind the Mask and how Nathan and Angela were so fucking great in that movie and nothing after really. And so it's like, so these two guys, I would like to see them do other things. I would like to see, again, if this series was as good as you say it is, like maybe another movie with those guys returning and the more linear story of the second book might be the one that clicks and might get the ones the audience go, Oh, and then appreciate the first movie more, that you get to know these guys. But I think that's really where I sit with it, is that I like them. I like the characters. I like the setup. It looks great. Love a lot. Love the director. I'm a big fan of Don, but there's just something there. There's a missing element that keeps me from just really, really liking the movie.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I definitely see that. Like, I definitely agree with the actors. I wish that they were in more stuff because I think they're both talented. They're both convincing with like some of the more like some of the comedy with those guys is all about like the way that they react or the way that they say certain stuff. And I think they both do a great job with that. Like you said, the movie is well shot. The visual effects in the third act when they get to the whole thing with Korok was a little shoddy as far as I'm concerned, but I think all the visual effects up to that point were fairly decent. And yeah, I think it's just it's a for me it's a good fun movie. I like the attitude. I like a lot of the lines of dialogue. It's just like uh, can you describe yourself? John and I are having a hard time. John here has eyesight problems because constant masturbation.
Constant masturbation, yeah.
Great line, and then
yeah. I mean,
have
like
you
I
ever
said,
heard the expression? Have you ever heard the American expression that I want to shoot you so bad my dick is hard? Well, maybe you heard it again in 24 hours.
Yeah. It's got, like I said, it's got some. Oh, I even talked about Doug Jones. As soon as I saw those hands, I was like, "Those are Doug Jones's hands," because I've met him. He's so,
Yeah.
I'm, and yeah, it's just. But yeah, like they said, some of the dialogue, like I got the humor. I was laughing. That's why I'm kind of like, even though I don't love the movie, I would totally read those books because I could see, I could see the evidence that I'm probably gonna like them more. Read this, and there will be spiders. Like, this book is filled with spiders. Was it seriously, dude? Don't touch it, or
Yeah, the second book is called "This Book is Full of Spiders. Seriously, dude, don't touch it." The third
so
book is
fucking
called
great.
"What the hell did I just read?" And the fourth book is called "If This Book Exists, You're in the Wrong Universe."
Yeah, the title suggests that.
And then
The title suggests that the author is winking at us and talking to us and is telling us a joke in many ways. To me, like it's breaking the fourth wall as the author. And are the books by David Wong? Is that what is it? Is that what it is?
yeah, when he first published them, so like basically, I think how it started off was because as you mentioned, Jason was an editor at Cracked, and he started this off as like a web series thing where like he published a little bit, and I think he got to the point of the police station, and of course, it started really taking off with people, and people were like, keep going, and so then it turned into the book. The first couple books were published under the pseudonym David Wong, and even actually his non John Dice at the end stuff like futuristic violence in fancy suits. Zoe punches the future in the dick, and Zoe's too drunk for this dystopia. Oh, well, actually, no, not that one. I think the first Zoe book, he published them under the Dave Wong pseudonym as well. But then eventually he, as he started his career started taking off, he's been publishing under his actual name now, and to the point where the earlier books now have his actual name instead of the David Wong name on them.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd probably like him. I mean, he just feels like, again, I like the sense of humor that I see. And like I said, it felt like it fit Don Coscarelli with the weirdness. But do you feel that maybe in the hands of a younger director, it would have maybe been a little more better translated? Because it feels very youthful.
Yeah.
Like the spirit, the characters are young slackers. The humor is very young and bold. And, Don was what, 60, 50 something, 50, 60 when he made it?
Yeah. But I
Guess
think
he
his
was.
style. I think his style kind of matched though the tone of Jason's work. I
Okay.
think Don does have a sort of a Don's sort of like almost like a rebellious filmmaker in a way.
Yeah,
You know
he
what I mean?
is.
He just,
He's an outsider.
like yeah, and his films kind of have like that, like they embrace the bizarre. You know what I mean? Like he's got
Yeah,
that
like
type of thing.
like Phantasm 3 is really, really quirky, and I love it. The quirkiness of Phantasm 3.
Yeah,
And I could see that out of Don's work, that fitting. But I also think, like, what if like Edgar Wright got a hold of this, or somebody like that?
yeah.
Uh,
Well, to be honest with you, I think this probably would have worked better as like maybe like a limited series or something like that. You know what I mean? Where you can get to do maybe 8 to 10, 45-minute episodes
yeah,
and kind
because
of
you said that
that way you can keep stuff from the book instead of dropping it, maybe make minor changes here and there. You know,
yeah, because you said that it was
did you
serialized
say something?
originally.
My computer glitched.
You said earlier it was serialized, right, on the website.
Yeah.
So was he writing when he started writing them? Were they just meant to be these little nuggets, or was there a whole planned thing, or do you know?
Well, that yeah. Sorry, man. My computer just glitched like multiple times in a row.
Okay, did you get what I said? Or
No, you were like it was breaking a lot, and actually,
okay, I'll try to get. You said that he wrote this and like serialized like on the site. Was he writing them as these little nuggets of story, little miniature tales, or was it all planned out to be an extended thing that, or do you think maybe that's where a problem is, if you've got all these little puzzle pieces that are not together, not spent, and then you put them together for a book, or was it always a master plan to tell a big story?
see, I'm not sure if how much that he was going to extend upon, or I don't know if maybe it was something that he was just kind of writing on a whim, and then it just kind of took off and he kept going from there. I'm not too sure. It's been a while since uh, I watched, like, because he, like I said, he does like these um videos at times where he talks about a lot of stuff, and like um but I don't recall the origin of this, if it was something where he had this full plan, or if he was just kind of making stuff up as he went along, like Indiana Jones, like
Yeah,
I don't know.
Because it kind of feels like the cartoonist, like a comic strip that a writer would write for a newspaper or a magazine, where every week or every day or every month there's another gag or joke piece, and then say, all right, so after I've done that for a year, can I take all these little cartoons that I did and make a story, one thing out of it? And that's so that could explain maybe why the sequels were a little more cohesive as as opposed to, and again, when you mess with time jumping too, you mentioned this one jumps around and like a Tarantino kind of thing where you're going back and forth in the future and then future and within the story where John saying he's been to the future, he sees the future and he's telling them things or I don't know, that can be complicating and hard to navigate, especially for an audience who just isn't like hip to it yet.
Well, I mean, just to clarify, like what I meant by like the time jump thing, like, yeah, there's a certain point. I'm gonna explain a little bit from the book here, like that's similar to the movie where, John, Dave, Amy, and there's actually a few other characters in the book that are taken by shitload. And they're in the van and they're driven to in the book they're driven to Vegas, and there's this whole big sequence that happens at the Marconi thing in Vegas.
Okay.
And then like after that whole thing, I can't remember exactly the timeline, but at least like a month or two later. So
All right, fellas.
So it has that type of a time jump. It's not like it's not like it's like a back and forth, past and future thing. It's just like the story gets to a certain point and it reaches its sort of like climax at that point, and then it kind of goes into the next evolution of the story from there. And that's why I think you could be right. Like the first book itself is a little chaotic in the fact that it's kind of blended in one. And while this movie captures the overall essence, like the big chunk of the story that's missing is actually very important, and it is less linear, but just in that terms, whereas like the second, third, and fourth books, the series of events that happen in those are very linear. Like they happen, like everything that happens is within period or whatever, whereas the first book doesn't quite have that.
So what did I miss? I'm joking.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to take that call. We have a potential investor for Unparalleled Comics, and that was him, and I was updating him on everything. So I'm all right. Thank you for checking in. I'm not. I was here the whole time. Did he not see me?
Mm-hmm.
My chair was moving around the whole time.
Turned around. Yeah, you're like a
I was doing business.
Bond villain.
Yes, I was a Bond villain. Sorry, but I really apologize, but I did not want to miss that call. So did you guys discuss some good stuff? I didn't hear any.
Yeah, he changed my mind. I love the movie now.
That's the same thing you've been trying to do with me and Mandy for years now, right? It's funny. It's funny. I was on Shudder last night looking for something to watch, and Mandy popped up. I was like, "Oh God!" And I looked at it. I was like, and Helena goes, "Is that the movie that you don't like, that Nate likes a lot?" I'm like, "Yeah," because I talked to my kids. I'm like, "Nate likes this movie. I don't like it." No, but I looked at it. I was like, "I really need to watch this again."
Mandy doesn't confuse me.
Right?
That people don't like it. Like, yeah, it's like, it's one of those movies. And you don't like it, you're gonna hate it.
Right. It's well, I think well. So the other day on the Horror Syndicate's Facebook page, I put up a poster for The Witch because it popped up in my own personal timeline that I must have watched it, and I thought about that when I saw the Mandy thing. I was like, it took me three or four times to appreciate The Witch, and I think it's a great movie. It's extremely well made, extremely well acted, and it's a pretty good movie. It's a great ending. And I'm like, maybe I need to give Mandy one more shot, because I haven't watched it since we did that show. And when was that? 2021, maybe?
Yeah, 20.
Yeah, so I'm willing to give it another shot. I think maybe we should do something like that. Movies Ray hates that he gave another shot. How's he feel now?
That's a lot of episodes.
I know. We'll do actors Ray hates and to see if he still wants to punch him in the face.
It's like, I can't watch Ryan Gosling. I'll punch him in the face.
Well, it's funny. Like Miles Teller is one that I hated
Yeah.
so much, and then I saw him in that show that was based on the making of The Godfather, and now I like him because of that performance. He was really good in that movie, that show. So maybe I like Ryan Gosling and Drive.
Well, I remember like Ryan Gosling, like the first thing I saw him in, I believe, was what was the movie where he and another guy like take people hostage? Murder by Numbers, is that what it was?
I don't think I've seen that one.
I think it was called Murder by Numbers, and maybe it was Sandra Bullock, and it's Ryan and Michael Pitt, and they're like these two young guys who,
oh, that fucker.
Yeah, they do something, and like I remember when it came out, everyone was talking about Gosling.
Who's Michael Pitt? Hold on.
Well, Michael
keep
Pitt,
going.
Michael Pitt,
he was in Funny Games.
What was that? Funny Games, yeah. And he was on Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah, I wanted to punch him so bad.
Yeah. So anyway, like Michael Pitt, I knew him from the movie Bully. And
that guy.
I was a big fan of Bully, and so when I saw that movie, I was like excited. Oh, Michael Pitt, cool. And then everyone was talking about Gosling, and I'm like, who the fuck is Ryan Gosling? I had no idea who he was. And so I remember being like a little resentful, like everyone's talking about this guy, but what about Michael Pitt? And then he did The Notebook, and he was blowing up, and I'm like, yeah, Notebook, nah. And it's funny because I had no interest in Notebook, and then I watched it. I'm like, yeah, I like James Garner and Gina Rollins. That was the best part. Forget the other stuff. Like now I love Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling, but at the point I didn't really give a fuck about that. And then I saw Blue Valentine, and he completely won me over. He blew me away in that. And then Drive came out, and I'm like, yeah, this guy's fucking great. And I went back and watched like Lars and the Real Girl and a bunch of other movies he had done. And then, yeah, he's just, I love the guy. And, but I could see like he has one of those phases, like because he's got that kind of smart ass, kind of smug kind of look, but he's not that guy. He doesn't really act smug, but I could see someone say, yeah, I want to punch that dude in the face because he has this thing about him. But I don't know, the new guy or the nice guys. And
I think that was the first thing I saw him in. That and that one with Steve Carell.
Oh, the Crazy Stupid Love or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of. It's weird because I saw The Notebook when I had COVID in 2022, the first time I had it, and my girlfriend at the time made me watch it, and that movie just seemed like it was a giant mess because it would time hop without like letting you know. And anyway, I don't know. I'm willing to give Drive a chance. Let's see. I've had it for about 3 years, so give it two or three more years.
And Drive is a movie that a lot of people didn't like. They were very divided because of the filmmaker. Nicholas Refn is a very art house filmmaker. And the thing is, that's probably his most mainstream movie. Like, if you're going to watch Refn, that's going to be the one.
Did he make Neon Demon?
He made Neon Demon, yeah. But Neon Demon's even weirder than Drive. Like, Drive is more of the accessible movie of his than his other stuff. And But the thing about Drive, I think people weren't prepared for. It's very much a movie about style as filmmaking, and one of the things that was a radical choice, is that Gosling and Carey Mulligan suggested that they just cut a lot of dialogue and just let the scenes play without words. And so some people watch that and they go, why don't they say anything? Why are they just kind of looking and things? But it's like, well, it's you can read so much in how people are looking at each other when they're falling in love, or you don't have to hear. It doesn't have to be spoken, but some people are so used to, I guess, just having things spoken to them. Whereas Drive is, I know, Seth, you see Drive, right?
Yeah, I did. I thought it was really good.
Yeah. It's a classic story. It's one of those movies. You've seen the movie before. It's the guy who's got a violent past. I used to tell people it's Fistful of Dollars, and people thought I was crazy.
I can see that.
Yeah, because A Fistful of Dollars is about this guy who's quiet, no name. Like Ryan Gosling doesn't have a name; they call him Driver in the movie. That's what he's titled as. You never know what his name is. So it's a man with no name. He has a violent past. He has a code that he lives by. He doesn't want to get involved because he doesn't want to get close to people. But he sees a woman. He likes her, and she's married, just like the woman in Fistful of Dollars. And he breaks his code by deciding to help her because he knows that's the right thing to do. And it gets him into a whole lot of shit with some gangsters and shit. So I thought it was very much A Fistful of Dollars, but in LA in modern times, in a very cool, Michael Mann kind of, synthwave. That movie is where it brought synthwave back. It was after that movie that everyone started getting the synthesizer.
What year did that come out? Was that
2011?
Okay.
Yeah. After the Drive, everyone started using synth music.
Yeah, because mid 2010s, it was everywhere. It was ever. His name's Ken. Jeez. Oh well, I own it, so I'll watch it eventually.
It's one of the only movies of the last 15 years where I just kept putting it on, and I don't really get to watch a lot of movies repetitively like I did when I was young. And there's a handful of movies, and that's one of them where I just kept like, I kind of want to watch Drive again. I throw it back on, which again is just really rare for me now. I haven't watched it.
You have a goal of watching 150,000 movies for your lifetime, I think, right?
I never get that. I
don't know if that's even exists.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible. It's definitely not possible. Like I've seen, I'm almost at 8,000, and that seems low. But also, you got to take out how many times I've watched movies again and again and again. If I'd just been watching movies that were new to me all the time, it would be way up there. But the fact that I have watched a lot of movies that I've seen multiple times. But when I started counting, I'm like, oh, it's not even. When I first counted, it was around 6,000 something. Now it's up to almost 8,000. So.
So you'll be the 10,000 by the end of the decade.
Yeah, but 5 years or so, probably.
Yeah. So we haven't decided on what the next movie is going to be that we discuss. Now, next week, it's okay that we take the week off for the Super Bowl, right, Nate? Is that okay for you?
Yeah.
I know you're going to miss us. But,
Foosball.
Well, the Super Bowl would be over by the time we start, wouldn't it?
Maybe.
Close to
it. Possibly.
Does it either start around 4 or 5?
No, I think it starts at 6 my time.
Oh, it wouldn't be over then.
I thought it would start around like 6:30 my time.
Let me look. Maybe we can squeeze a show in.
Like if we do like a 10 Eastern show.
That'd be up to you guys. 5:30 my time is when it starts.
Yeah, so 6:30 my time.
Yeah, so 9ish my time. It'll be about 10 probably.
Yeah.
But based off of our
Who's doing the
list,
halftime show this year?
I think Usher.
Usher.
Mm-hmm.
He's relevant, right?
My mute button.
Yeah, right.
Usher. Like, how do they come up with it?
I don't know. Like, why wouldn't it be Taylor Swift? Honestly.
Yeah, why wouldn't it be Taylor Swift? She's gonna be there anyway.
I guess that's too much favoritism towards.
She doesn't want to work. Yeah, and people would be really upset if she were doing it, even though
probably.
Like, I saw this argument the other day.
Want to make it obvious.
I saw this argument yesterday with Shannon Sharp where he said that no one's moving the needle like Taylor Swift right now because of all that. Like, and his co-host like, no, I think if Beyonce weren't married to Jay-Z and she were married dating some guys, like, he's like, no fucking way. And he was talking about how Taylor has generated so much money for the NFL because of the demographic that she draws in. And they kept arguing back and forth. And online people are like, oh, bullshit, Beyonce's greater than Taylor Swift. And it's like, it's not about who's better or who you like more or who you feel. It's about who is that fucking popular.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like, Shannon Sharp I didn't finish the podcast, but he said both of them had he said Taylor and Beyonce had concert movies last year in theaters. Mm-hmm. How much did they make? And I looked it up. And Beyonce's movie made $44 million worldwide. Okay. Taylor Swift made $250 million worldwide. Shit. Almost 6 times as much. So it's not saying that Beyonce's better. It's just saying that probably a big chunk of Beyonce's fan base anyway watches the NFL already. He's talking about Taylor has brought in those 8 to 13-year-old little white girls to watch the NFL that weren't going to watch the NFL. But it's funny how people ignore the reality of how massive that woman is.
Like, I know she is massive.
Like, it's like I said, it's like the Michael Jackson of today, basically.
Yeah,
she's huge, and the people who don't like her, just they're. I'm not even a fan. I don't own one Taylor Swift song. I probably couldn't tell you one song. I couldn't sing one song, but I'm not that blind to realize, holy shit, she is huge.
Elena, my daughter loves her, so I do own quite a bit. So
you got the daughter at the right age for her.
Yeah, she's 10, and her cousin who's 15. They put on their own concert, and they were doing Taylor Swift. When my daughter stayed the night over at her cousin's house Friday, I got over there because my brother-in-law was like, "Hey, I got a breakfast burrito with your name on it," because he made breakfast for dinner. I was like, "I'm on my way." So I get over there and I hear them singing Taylor Swift up there, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. And I don't know. I've gotten to know a lot of her songs. I don't really care. She's fine. I respect the shit out of Taylor Swift because
I imagine I'd like it if I listened to it.
It's not bad, honestly. Yeah. Some of the songs. There's one song called "Look What You Made Me Do." Check that out. That one's not bad.
And she's her own composer, right? She writes these songs.
Yeah, I believe so.
And like that's something like pop stars usually get criticized for, is they're not really writing their own music, and she writes her own music. And didn't I read that? I mean, how baller this was. Didn't like the record company, they were trying to, like, I don't know, strong arm her about something about her songs, so she just like re-recorded her own songs so they wouldn't have ownership or something. Like she just went out and redid it also to fuck them over.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, man. She's pretty badass.
She's smarter than she looks.
Yeah.
So coming up for our next show, whenever that may be, either the next week or the week after, depending on what we want to do, I've got 3 choices. And Seth, I want you to interject because I got to make sure you can have the ability to watch these. Motel Hell, that's one. Haunt, which we may just wait till October for that one. And then the other one is Dark Knight of Scarecrow, which I think is streaming. What do you guys think?
Any of them, really.
Dark Knight of Scarecrow is on Peacock and Tubi.
1 second.
Or we could do like one of the movies that made me episodes. Give somebody a week or two to compile a list. Seth's supposed to be next, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on with Jared. Haven't heard from him, so I can get mine ready as well. If you guys want to, after the Super Bowl, if you guys are up to it, we can just have a bullshit session and just talk movies for a little bit.
Yeah, we could, since it'd be like a brief show. So
Yeah.
that way we're not up late.
Yeah, I mean, we can go for a half hour or so, or whatever
and
it is.
And if I don't know, I mean, I know you got your teams aren't in it, right? Like,
No, but I hate one of the teams that's in it with a fire passion. So I may need to be talked down.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I didn't know if you'd be on a high or whatever and not want to focus on a movie, but just kind of.
Well, if the 49ers win, I'll be happy. If the Chiefs win, I won't be happy, and I'll probably need to talk just to have a conversation, if anything. After that, I hate them more than anything on this earth. Yeah, and I'm a huge baseball fan, like more so than the NFL, and I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan, and our rival is the Chicago Cubs. I hate the Chiefs more than the Cubs. I should hate the Cubs more, but I don't. They're just not that much of a threat. Meanwhile, the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl like every year. But yeah, I mean, if you guys are up for it, Seth, if you're up for it, we can jump on here for a little bit and just kind of, we could do is look to the year ahead and see, talk about some of the movies that we're looking forward to, if anything. Which I only have one that I can even think of that I'm really looking forward to offhand, which is Maxine.
Well, maybe we can think of a fun thing, or maybe ask people to ask questions, or
yeah, I would love to do that.
Q&A thing.
If we can get people to ask us anything.
Yeah. Our 5 viewers.
Yeah. Well, actually though, secondary watches or after live watches are actually pretty good on YouTube.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. We are up to 1,635 subs now, and doing pretty decent on views. So that's after the fact, unfortunately. You just need to get us when we're live.
Yeah, it's like when I was doing those drawings live, like 1 watcher, 2 watchers, 1 watcher, 0 watchers. I'm like, geez, no one's watching. And then like later saying, well, hundreds of people watched it, I guess. So
yeah, it's kind of frustrating, but at the same time, it's like at least people are watching it later, or or joining in a little bit later, because we even get after live comments on the videos too, which it's weird on YouTube that they don't show up in the same spot. So like anybody who comments on YouTube while we're live, they don't show up in the comments after the video is posted. I don't understand that, but yeah, I don't ask us anything would be fun. I like doing those, and really, we could do each come up with a couple questions to ask each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be
keep it going. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got a question for both of you right now. Where does he get those wonderful toys?
I got a question for you, Ray.
Okay.
Have you ever heard the old American expression, I want to shoot you so bad my dick is hard? Or maybe you hear it again in the next 24 hours.
That's
funny because I did hear it a second time now. So
there you go.
I found this isn't related to anything, but there was something that was really cool. I was listening to Theo Vaughn's podcast, and he was talking to Tony Robbins, and he was talking about how we don't really have much control over things, and how we're primed by things, by what we see and what we hear. And he said there was an experiment. I think it was Harvard that did it. I just found this interesting and bring it up. But this was Tony Robbins saying there was an experiment that Harvard did where they hired these actors to go with the script. And basically they went to a mall, and they were in a mall, and an actor would approach somebody in the mall with a cup of coffee, and they would hand it, say, hey, could you hold this for me for a second? And then they would look at their phone or whatever, and for 10 seconds, and then take the coffee back from them and say, thanks, and they'd leave. And then half of the people they did it to, the coffee was hot. And then the other half was iced coffee. So then about 10 minutes later, someone else would come up to the same person with a piece of paper and say, "Hey, real quick, I'm doing this thing. If I paid you $20, would you read this and tell me what you think, or answer some questions about it? It only take you like 20 seconds to read. Can I get like a minute of your time? I give you $20." And he goes, a lot of people are like, "Yeah." And so they would read it, and so they would say, "Okay, tell me what you think about the main character. How would you describe that person?" And the people who had been handed the hot coffee would say, "I found them very warm and nice and comforting." And the people that got the iced coffee would say the person was very cold and didn't have a lot of feeling to them. Because it was the same story, same thing. But the coffee, the hot and cold coffee, affected the way they felt or read or took in reading something. I was like, that's fascinating.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Because so like we're just primed for something. Like he was saying this because of how he starts the day off thinking about what he's grateful for rather than complaining or feeling bad, so that he feels good today. He goes, that's how if you're thinking negative or you're thinking about what you're afraid of or what's gonna, he goes, that will affect the way your day is. But if you wake up going, I'm grateful for this breakfast, or I'm grateful for, you know, the house or my family or whatever, that's a good way to start your day. So it does affect the way we walk through life or think through our day if we're.
Well, that's interesting to think about, really, because like that'd be a really interesting
think about how many people like movies, you know,
right.
Like there are movies that you watched that maybe didn't click with you because that day you weren't really primed for it, and then you watched it a month later and went, well, this isn't what I remember. This is
maybe that's what the problem is with Mandy.
That's what it is. You need to. You need a hot cup of coffee.
Well, I'm watching this. I got some coffee in my hand. Nicolas Cage makes me feel very warm in his underwear and that tiger t-shirt.
you just need to get drunk like him in the bathroom and your tidy whities.
I definitely feel like I need to rewatch it.
Oh, my shirt.
What? Let me ask you guys this, both of you guys. I want an answer. What's a movie that you've watched in the last 5 years or so, horror movie? No, any movie that didn't connect with you that you do want to rewatch.
You need a box of Cheddar Goblin.
Cheddar Goblin.
A movie that what?
That you didn't connect with that you'd really like to go back and rewatch. Well, I'm glad you're here, Jordan. We prefer people to watch live too.
Thank you.
Like anything. I know that's a broad question, but like, can you think of something like off the top of your head?
A movie that The Bad Batch.
The show?
The movie. It was not the Star Wars. Lily Poor, I think is her name. She did A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which I loved. I love that movie. And so her follow-up movie was a movie called The Bad Batch, which had like Jason Momoa and a few other stars. And it's this kind of post-apocalyptic story. And it had a really great poster. And
from Netflix.
I blind bought it because I thought, well, it's got to be fucking great. It looks great. Trailer looks great. I love her first movie. And I didn't like it at all. So I would like to go back to it maybe.
So it's got Momoa, Keanu Reeves, Jim Carrey. I don't know who Suki Waterhouse is. Diego Luna, Giovanni Ribisi. So that's.
Oh yeah, Jim Carrey is like unrecognizable. He plays like he's just very different. Like he doesn't look like himself.
He's called the Hermit. So
yeah.
Seth, anything that you could think of?
Not off the top of my head, but I think that's a really good question. I kind of want to think about that for a little bit. Maybe I can get back to you on that next week's episode.
Okay, so next week's episode, just to prep you guys, I'm going to ask top 5 movies in the last 10 years that you need to rewatch. Because you think
that might be an interesting thing that we could compile are horror movies from the last, I don't know, say 40 years that you didn't like. And you know, it's not to shit on them, it's not to say, but it's like I didn't click with it. Mm-hmm. And because there's some
that are popular?
Because even popular or whatever. I mean, every movie's popular. Like I found that like where I don't like to mention movies I don't like. People think I just like everything.
I know.
people think I like everything, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, he oh, you're always so positive about movies." Like,
Nate's
dude,
a shill. That's what it is, right?
I just don't mention the movies that I don't like because why bother?
Well, because you're a more positive person, you don't like shitting on stuff.
Well,
I get it.
Well, at the same time, it's like, what am I achieving by saying that movie sucked? Don't watch it. Like, I don't, because that person may have the warm cup of coffee and like it. Like I don't know. So I don't try to influence people negatively.
I'm always drinking cold stuff.
And the thing is, every once in a while, somebody, well, what's a movie you didn't like? And I'll say, well, this, and this, and then someone will go, well, I really liked that movie, and then I feel bad. I'm like, well, fuck, I'm sorry. Like I didn't mean to, like, say it sucked, but I didn't like it. And they're like, well, yeah. So, but I think it would be interesting to kind of think about that. Like, what are some movies that just didn't hit right for you that, other people do like? And to me,
I'll tell you one right now.
Me personally, like, I'm happy that people love it. Like, I think all art deserves its audience and the love, because someone put a lot of love into making it.
What movie are we talking about here?
Could be anything.
Okay, so I got one right away. It was praised by the Academy. It's that Everything Everywhere All at Once. I watched it, I'm like, what? Why does everybody like this? I don't hate it. There were some great performances in it, and it was entertaining, but I'm like, that's okay. But I know that it's got a ton of praise.
Well, I went and saw it in the theater with my daughter, and I was really enjoying it. It was really quirky. It was wild. I'd never seen much like it, and I was really enjoying it. And then it got to like the third act where everything started to come together. What it was really saying, and about love and about family, and about how, like Key's character saying, you think I'm weak or what born, but that's me fighting, and that's how I cope, and that's how I deal with my life. I don't always have to fight with, anger or rage or fight. There was, by the third act, I started to get the overall underlying message of what this movie really was and what the story was, and it really touched me. And I remember walking out of the theater telling my daughter, like, I think I was crying when I walked out of the theater. And I didn't expect to be crying when I walked out of this movie, because the whole time I'm just watching this very entertaining action comedy, sci-fi, weirdo movie. And then by the third act, I'm feeling what was really there. And I was already a big fan of these guys anyway. I loved Swiss Army Man. I thought Swiss Army was really great.
That's one I still need to see.
But I think overall, what set me out thinking because I did, while I'm watching Everything Everywhere All at Once, I'm not thinking, oh, this is one of the greatest films of the year, or this is one of my favorite movies of the year. But by the third act and by the time it was done, I felt moved all over. Like, oh, wow. And sometimes it's like that. Sometimes I watch a movie and by the end of it, it's transformed. And I think sometimes those twist ending movies are like that too. This one doesn't really have a twist ending, but like, say, The Mist. I remember liking The Mist a whole lot and thinking this is a good movie. But by the time it got to that twist ending where I went, or was really a twist ending, but that ending where you're like, oh, that just made this movie go up. It made this movie like fucking out. Sixth Sense was the same way. I remember watching Sixth Sense and thinking, this is a pretty good, scary little movie. And then by the third act with the reveal, you're like, holy shit, that just made this movie go way out the roof. Never be afraid to call a movie out on its flaws. It's called constructive criticism. That's the thing. As a filmmaker, as an artist, constructive criticism is great. But it's also, I say, I don't have a problem with criticism. I have a problem with the way people criticize.
Yeah.
It's not that you said, because constructive criticism is to help the artist, to tell them what they can do. But by saying your movie's a piece of shit, it's a dumpster fire, it's meh, it's all this, like, that doesn't tell me anything. Constructive criticism should inform you on where you're going wrong and how you can fix it. Otherwise, and I really feel the people who just say it's a piece of shit, it's dumpster fire, blah, 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 they can't tell you what's wrong because they don't fucking know, because they don't have any goddamn idea of what it is. And they don't have any talent. And so when I read reviews like that, it's just mean-spirited. It's more, and there's this whole thing where people just want to be snarky. And it feels like it's more the writer trying to get the critic or writer trying to get more attention for themselves than really helping the artist and being constructive. Constructive is that you're building something. These people are just fucking tearing shit down. It's not. There's no building. There's no construction. It's just demolishing. That's my thing there.
Sorry. Helena needed me. I didn't say I didn't like it. I was like, I didn't see the fuss.
Yeah, and that's fair. A lot of people did. That's like,
but the fun thing is, I watched The Fabelmans after it, and I fucking loved The Fabelmans. So that was a great movie. I watched 3 movies puberty. I watched 3 movies that night. I watched everything, everywhere, all at once. The Fabelmans and House of Gucci. Was that it?
Oh yeah.
Or House of whatever with.
But going back to the criticism thing, I really liked what it said. Morgan Freeman. I don't know if he said it, but he said, "Never take criticism from someone you wouldn't turn to for advice." And I think that's the best way. I'm not going to take the constructive criticism from someone who I don't know and don't know what their qualifications are.
Mm-hmm.
I will go to someone who I respect and who I know.
Would you take it from me?
I would listen to you because I know you wouldn't be out to hurt me.
No, I definitely wouldn't. No way.
Yeah, that's the difference. I think a lot of people nowadays kind of have a chip on their shoulder, want to tear shit down,
want to watch the world burn.
Want to watch, I there's just become this sub counterculture with the internet of, you know, with the YouTube videos and all that, where it's become cool to, what's wrong with this movie? What's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? 10 things that are, like, a movie comes out, like, everything that's wrong with this, and 10 things that are wrong with this, and why this isn't as good as you think it is, and why this isn't as good as they say. It's become this whole thing, and that's what gets all the attention. It's not, 10 things that are great about this. Why this is great. Why you should watch this. Why no, people aren't watching that shit. People aren't listening to that. They want to hear someone make fun of something rather than praise it and build it up, or tell people why, you know, it isn't as good as everyone thinks it is, or there's this whole mentality that people have. Yeah.
God.
Yeah, because like
that joking, by the way, at the end.
Like okay, I should. It just that's the thing. It's like, I have no problem with criticism that is meant to help, and I just don't see a lot of help in the way people. What's dumpster fire or Meg got to do with help? Like, it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help me.
Meg definitely doesn't help anybody.
No.
So I think I just thought of another movie that I need to rewatch that I watched once and it didn't click with me, was Mad Max Fury Road. Like, everybody loved it, and I'm like, I felt like Larry David, you know. Like, I definitely like to watch it again, especially with Furiosa coming up, because I know, like, I think Seth likes that movie, because I love the Mad Max movies, the first 3. I have this weird, like, admiration towards Thunderdome for some reason.
You're at the right age, like I was. That's the first one
I saw it 85 or so when it came, like, shortly after it came out. I was like 5 or 6, but like, Mel Gibson was so cool. Tina Turner looked so badass in costume, you know, and it was just a cool idea. Even oddly enough, my first DVD I ever bought, those 2 because I got them at the same time, was Beyond Thunderdome and Terminator. Were my very first 2 DVDs I ever got. Now my friend Brett will say it's Blair Witch and Blair Witch 2, but that's not true. He got me those a couple days later for a present. But anyway, yeah, I was like, holy shit, Beyond Thunderdomes on DVD. I just got a PS2. I gotta have that, So I have a weird love for that. So like going into Fury Road, it's like I should like this a lot, thinking that way. And I think that's a downfall for me because I don't like The Dark Knight. And that's I went into that like higher than I've ever been on a movie ever before ever seeing it, and I was let down so hard by the end of the movie and it wasn't because I didn't check off certain lists. It's like I didn't like the way they treated certain characters like Two-Face, and and they built up so much shit in Batman Begins. That Batman Begins, first of all, I think and it sounds weird. Me and Seth talked about this last time. Batman Begins is underrated because it's a great fucking movie. I just watched it the other day. I'm like, holy shit. This is such a great basis.
That's my favorite of the three.
Me too. I think Seth would agree.
But they all have their problems. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Batman Begins is my favorite, but the third act stinks. It's kind of like.
I'd say that about the third act of all three of them.
Well, yeah, true. Like, yeah, that's true. Like Ra's al Ghul coming back was kind of like, oh, okay, and then all the thing, but like everything up until that point, I love. And then like
and Cillian Murphy, by the way, is phenomenal in that movie. And Batman Begins.
And then like The Dark Knight, my problems with The Dark Knight is the Two-Face stuff. They didn't need it. Although they do because it's part of the Joker's overall painting that he's doing, of proving that anybody can be corrupt and everything. Mm-hmm. And what's he saying? I could take tricks as a baby trick. I don't really have Don's number. I can't really get him. Right. I can't help him. But that's the thing. Like, no one's seen. These people aren't seeing our criticism anyway. No. But anyway, like, what was I talking about? Oh, the Dark Knight. Like, to me, the movie just doesn't know when to end.
Yes,
that was my biggest problem. Like, it feels like, is the movie over? No, we got 30 more minutes. Oh, we got 40 more minutes. Like, and it feels like it just keeps going and going, and like it feels overdone. It's overcooked.
Let me ask you this.
And Heath Ledger is so brilliant in it.
He is.
That I just can't stand to watch it when he's not on screen. Like, I'm bored. Where's Heath Ledger at? He was so fucking good.
It's the Joker movie we didn't know we needed.
Yeah.
But the problem, one of my biggest problems also has to do with the score of the movie, because it constantly feels like the score is building and building and building and building and building, and it just continues to build and build and build without a crescendo. Which, I'm not a music person or anything like that, but I know that that shouldn't be like that, and it throws me off every time because I'm watching through the Dark Knight movies now, and I'm watching. I'm like, this score is great, but it feels like there's no, like at any point at all. It's just like feels someplace that's out of place. I feel like this Two-Face was mismanaged, and I could go on for hours about that. And The Last Jedi, of course.
But Rises, I loved Tom Hardy and Bane so much, and I like the whole siege thing. But like every time I go back to the movie, I'm like, God, this is kind of corny. Like there's like corniness to it, or there's something about Dark Knight Rises that doesn't hold up as well over multiple viewings. But I loved Bane so much and his choices.
Sorry, Sean. I don't mean to hurt you.
Well, he needs to take some constructive criticism. And the Dark Knight, that's the thing. Like it's considered, like, we're taking nothing away from Dark Knight because Dark Knight is considered the best fucking superhero movie ever made, like by a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, to be respectful, I do see. I can get why it's so praised. I mean, Christopher Nolan is a great director.
Oh yeah. But that my overall feeling is, God, this movie just keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, really? Like, how many plots does the Joker have for Batman and the Joker? Like, how many things? It just feels overcooked, in my opinion. Not to say that the stuff in it's not bad, but like you said, or I think Seth maybe said, like, maybe if it was a TV series. And they were episodes.
Yeah.
Because it just feels like, oh, well, this is another episode of Batman and Joker rival.
But like the scene, one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie with the Joker is, and they showed it in a trailer, but I when I saw that in the trailer, I was like, oh my god, it's so good. And when Joker's holding what's her name out the window, and Batman's like, let her go, and he's a very poor choice of words, shoots, and just lets her go. So like Batman saves her, he's down on the ground level. How did the Joker get away? Where did he go? Because like in comics, it's like if you have an action, you should show the outcome. There was no outcome to that. Like Batman was on ground level. He could have met the Joker on the ground. Like that still bothered me. Why didn't he go back up there? He has a fucking zip line gun. He could zip right back up there. Instead it cuts to the next day. It's like, what the fuck?
Very tired.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he got hurt, but like, anyway.
And also I hated I know why they did it, but I really didn't care for the Batman suit revamp. But they get a little lollipop head so he can move his neck.
Worst Batman suit ever, and I'm including nipples. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and after a while, I think by the second movie, I wasn't bothered by it in the first movie, but in the second movie, the whole his voice. When what's his name does him? What's his name of the comedian that does him in the videos?
I don't know. Oh, actually, I have no idea who you're talking about.
Something Holmes, Pete Holmes or something like that. He does what like, where were the Joyce going? And he does it perfect, and it makes it even funnier when I watch the movie. I can't watch Christian Bale do it in Rises or Dark Knight without laughing.
He sounds like he can't breathe. First of all. And he never shuts his mouth. Like he just stands there like, he's a fucking mouth breather. There's a lot of problems with that series for me, but I still try to get through it. Seth and I are going to do this whole thing on my other channel about kind of doing like what we do on Wednesdays with movies like The Dark Knight and stuff like that, and give them a rating. But I don't know. I get, it's like every year. It's like Halloween, Rob Zombie's Halloween. I give it another chance every year, and I'm like, oh, I just really don't like this movie very much. But anyway, I'm about to do the same thing with The Last Jedi. Go through it again because it's been a couple years since I watched it. So you never know. I like to do that. I like to check and see, go check back, see, no, maybe I'll like it this time.
It has its like bad things, but overall, the last Jedi, like we've talked about it enough. I know. I had the same thing. I reacted just like everybody else. Like the people who loved it were people who weren't Star Wars fans, and so I think there's something there because they went into it without any like baggage, and they walked out thinking, well, that was one of the best ones I've ever seen. And but I think a lot of the problem Star Wars fans have with The Last Jedi, myself included, was that it wasn't the movie we wanted or expected and dreamed about. We wanted that Mandalorian episode, we wanted that Luke Skywalker.
That was cool.
That's what we wanted. We wanted Luke Skywalker. We were kept from Luke Skywalker in the first movie. Because when we first came, they're doing Star Wars and Luke, it's Mark Hamill, and like he's not in it. He's in the very fucking end. So we're like, the next movie, and then we see it, and it's like, what the fuck is this? Like, where's my Luke Skywalker? Where's my Jedi Knight in the black kicking ass with, so the fanboy, the guy who loves Luke so much, was like crushed. It took me time to watch it and go, well, yeah, I guess he wouldn't be that guy. He is like 40 years older or 30 years older, and he's that. And when I think about it, I was like, wait a minute, Luke really wasn't the myth that we think of. Like, I like the play with myth. I was like, well, Luke didn't take down the Empire. Like Vader was who won it really in that whole confrontation. But the rebels took down the Empire when they blew up the Death Star. Like, it was a team effort. It wasn't one Jedi. Like, and he says that in the movie, doesn't it? Like, well, am I just? Or, I don't know if it was a deleted scene or it's in the actual movie where he says, "What am I supposed to take on the whole
First Order
with a laser sword?" Like, yeah, that's not possible. If it were that possible, if one Jedi Knight could do everything, like could do that, then why, like, used to have an entire Jedi Council, used to have hundreds of Jedi Knights, thousands of Jedi Knights. How were they so easily taken out by a bunch of clones or battle bots? I mean, I know they were caught off guard, but like, still, it doesn't make any sense that if a Jedi is that amazing.
Yeah.
Because any war, the Mandalorians wouldn't have been able to fight the Jedi if the Jedi were that incredibly powerful and badass. So the mythos of that Luke can't live up to that kind of thing.
Nobody could.
Yeah.
No, a lot of my problems aren't actually with the Luke thing. It started there and went from there. But I will say one thing about The Last Jedi: beautifully shot movie.
Oh God!
I'll give Rian Johnson that.
And
I loved
that lightsaber fight was so gorgeous.
The throne room scene.
Yeah.
The one big takeaway from that movie is we got a different type of planet. It looked like a snow planet, but it was salt, and it had that was so cool. I thought that was really cool. Yeah. And plus it's Larry Fisher, Carrie Fisher's last performance, so that was kind of special for me, even though she was in The Rise of Skywalker, which is another rough one. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to give those another shot here directly. But yeah, I think if we do something next week, which I think we should, even if it's for a little bit, I want to do that talk about that movies that we'd like to revisit, because I'm starting to think of a bunch of them now that I saw that I'd like to revisit. I'm like, that just wasn't for me, because I was thinking about somebody, my friend Tita was talking to me the other day, and she saw Beau Isn't Afraid. And she's like, oh, why haven't you watched it? I was like, I don't know. I think I can. There's no there's no rush for me to watch that. I've seen so many movies over the last few years that it's just like, if it doesn't appeal to me at this point, I'm not going to bother watching it really fast. And she's like, what about Oppenheimer? I was like, well, that's a different story. I really do want to see that one. But, it's just, I don't know. There's some movies that just don't appeal to me that I may not watch, like Beau is Afraid. I know you liked it, Nate. But, I don't know.
It's strange. I mean, Ari Aster, of course, what got me there, because I love this first two.
That would be my number one reason to watch it, honestly.
Yeah, that was the reason I watched it. And it's not those movies. It's not like Hereditary or Midsommar. It's very, very different. It's a very dark comedy.
And those are two of my favorite horror films. I mean, if I made the list of the last 6 years, 5 years, let's forget about 2024. Hereditary is right there near the top, if not at the top. Barbarian's right by there too. So Midsummer's in the top 5. I love those movies.
The more I saw Beau in the theaters, and then I watched it again for our show. And, it's 3 hours long or so. So I was like, oh, I can't remember if I liked it that much or not. So I'm watching it, and I'm just like, okay, I'm hooked. Yeah, I love Barbie. But we're watching, I'm hooked. And then my wife hadn't seen it. And I said, you should watch it. It's just very interesting. It's like one of those movies where you're like, where is this going? And what is that? And it's just so intriguing. And I watched it again with her. So I'm like, I watched it twice in the same, like in a matter of 2 or 3 days. And that's, it's a commitment, 6 hours.
It is, yeah.
Movies. I'm like, but there's something here that it's at least interesting. And that's really what it comes down to. Is this movie interesting? I think David Fincher said that, or not David Fincher, but maybe it was Ebert, no movie's too long if it's interesting. And no movie is, if a movie's not interesting, it can be an hour long and feel too long. So, I
think 5 of my top 10 favorite movies are 3 hours long. So,
yeah, if a movie's like really, really interesting, entertaining, it doesn't matter how long it. Like I wish there were more. I wish there's a lot of movies where you're watching I wish this were longer. I would watch everything.
The Batman. I was very happy the Batman got the runtime it got.
Oh yeah.
And even Avengers Endgame, very entertaining movie. It's 3 hours long. You know, my favorite movie of all time is either Godfather or Godfather 2. So those are 3 hours, and Scarface is 3 hours. So yeah, I mean, if it's entertaining, you know, you're right. I don't know. Maybe I'll watch it one day. I don't know. It's not like high on my priority list. I don't even have
Like
a priority list anymore.
Oppenheimer's a movie that doesn't feel as long as it is because it
am
has this
fucking-
driving movement, and it's
really good. That's what you need in
Yeah.
some movies. Like I really can't wait to watch that one.
it's so, the editing is so, it's amazing that it works because it doesn't linger on anything. It just kind of keeps another scene, another scene, another scene. Like it doesn't hang out too long. It's like it follows almost in a dramatic way. Like there's that whole screenwriting rule of get into a scene as late as you can and get out as soon as you can. So like, don't have people like walk into a room and say, "Hi, how you doing?" Like, no, act like that scene's already started like 3 minutes ago, and then start there, and then get out as soon as you possibly can. So you're not trimming everything, getting rid of all that fat, so that you don't overstay your welcome in that scene. And like, but you get to the gist of it. And
yeah, those are two great ones too. I want to ask a question about Oppenheimer. So back in 2008, Robert Downey Jr. I don't know if you guys remember this. He was, of course, in a movie called Iron Man. Do you guys remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that same summer, a movie called The Dark Knight came out, directed by Christopher Nolan, who directed Oppenheimer. And Robert Downey Jr. called The Dark Knight pretentious. Do you guys remember that? Do you think that
probably compared to Iron Man, probably.
Yeah, right. Do you like? I think it was more along the lines of calling Christopher Nolan's filmmaking pretentious, something along those lines. I remember because I was like, "Oh shit, that's rough." That he would say something, and then here he is, 15 years later, in a Nolan film,
getting awards for it.
Yeah,
probably going to get him his Oscar. You know, there is a pretentiousness about Nolan, but you know, I did hear someone say, I think it was Paul Schrader, like filmmaking is pretentious, like in every way. Like filmmakers are pretentious, like because it is very, well, you know, pretension is what, like this is the filmmaker saying this is important, or what I'm doing is important. And the thing is, like, as much time and money and energy that goes into a film, you better goddamn believe it's fucking important. As a filmmaker, that what you're doing matters and is important.
Well, yeah.
I
mean, otherwise, why are you doing it?
Yeah, why are you doing it? Why are you giving 4 or 5 years of your life to it, or you know, sometimes even more? I mean, people don't realize how long directors work on these things. Where, you know, some of the movies that Scorsese's made in the last 10 years, he's been trying to make since the 70s. You know, like I mean. They these are part of her life. And Nolan is, I mean, Nolan has nothing to prove. He's, from Memento to Oppenheimer, he's got a hell of a, you know, and he's got his things, he's got his styles and his things he does that have become cliche, but you know, the person he's probably in some ways most like is, like, if you could compare him to another filmmaker, I don't know who, like Ridley Scott, maybe. But I think he's better because Ridley Scott, half of his filmography, I don't feel is very good. Like when I look at Ridley Scott, like someone brought that up, like Tony Scott or Ridley Scott. I'm like, I go Tony. I like more of Tony Scott's movies than I like Ridley Scott's movies. I see a lot of Ridley Scott, and I'm more like, yeah. But you know, Alien, you know, Blade Runner. I'm not a big Blade Runner fan, but Alien, Gladiator, The Martian.
Gladiator's not bad. I'm not a big Ridley Scott. I can't say.
But I like when I really look at his overall thing, like, I don't love everything he's done. With Nolan, there's a few that I don't care for, but at the same time, like Memento and the Batman Begins and The Prestige and
it never gets talked about anymore, and it's a damn good movie.
Inception, Oppenheimer.
I don't like Inception.
Dunkirk.
I haven't seen after. I don't think I've seen any of his movies after Dark Knight Rises.
One I need to go back to is Interstellar because everybody loves that. And I didn't
Never
click
seen
with it,
that one.
but Dunkirk was really good. I saw that in theaters. I liked it.
Yeah, I've
I
never
didn't
seen
like
that one.
I didn't like Tenet very much.
I haven't seen that one either.
I need to go back to Tenet.
Hey Seth, what do you think about that? Christopher Nolan directing.
I love Tenet.
You love Tenet?
Yeah, I would actually like to see Nolan do a Bond, especially if he does it where he goes back to Fleming's novels. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. All right. Well, let's do something next week. We'll chat about it in the chat. I'm gonna get going because I gotta get the kids off to bed and such. Is there anything you want to say before we go, guys, fellas? Because again, we get to talking like this, we could probably go all freaking night. You know, I'd love to do that, but I gotta work in the morning. Prestige is fantastic. I should watch that again. That was a good movie.
I haven't seen it in a long time. I do need to go back to it because, Oppenheimer is probably still my favorite of last year, and it's a strong year. Like, Poor Things and Past Lives and The Holdovers, Barbie.
Yeah, The Holdovers is streaming now, so I want to check that one out.
And Anatomy of a Fall. All those movies. I think all the ones that are nominated for Best Film, the only ones I haven't seen is American Fiction and I was going to go see it last weekend, but I was going to see it with my nephew, but his car wouldn't start. The one of the Nazi camp one, Zone of Interest. I wanted to go see it, so I need to see American Fiction and Zone of Interest. But I've seen all the others, and everything on that's nominated is great. It's hard, to pick, and people are like, well, this was snubbed and that was snubbed. I know that one that didn't get any nominations. I don't think. All of Us Strangers. I was listening to Joe Dante's podcast, and he fucking loved that movie. Him and his co-host, and they were like, "That's the movie that got snubbed." They just fucking loved it.
So let me ask you guys a question before we go. So this year we're not getting a rash of DC and Marvel movies. Okay. Do you think this could be a big box office year to show that films are not DC and Marvel only? Because there's a few movies I noticed, like one was called Civil War that I think looks really interesting. That Argyle movie looks fun. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Have you guys seen the trailer for that one?
Yeah, that's the Guy Ritchie one.
Yeah, that I like Guy Ritchie. There's a lot of fun looking stuff that's going out. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Go ahead, Seth.
I was gonna say the Ministry of Ungentlemen, whatever it is. That looks a lot of fun, and it's good to see Henry Cavill kind of go back to his Hellraiser, Hellworld days of just having fun while acting.
Yeah, he looks like he's gonna have a blast in that one.
Yeah,
I do think. I think superhero movies, they just got too with. I mean, face it. I've said this, Infinity War and Endgame. It's like you blew your load, and where do you go from there? How do you top that? You can't. There's no fucking way you could top those two movies. And the thing is, it's like those characters, Iron Man and Hulk and Thor and Captain America or whatever. It's like if you have a sitcom and you lose your 5 stars, and then you replace them with a bunch of people who are, supporting kids. Like The Office loses Steve Carell, Jim and Pam and Dwight. We're not going to sit here and watch Kevin and Angela and Phyllis for 10 more years. No, we need. So right now the MCU is missing heavy hitter characters. No one is other than Spider-Man, and Spider-Man in many ways feels like he's foreign to everything. He was so tied to Tony.
Iron Lad, you mean?
Iron Lad, yeah. He was so tied to Tony but he didn't have really a relationship with everybody else. And I really think that's it. Spider-Man is the biggest one that's still there as far as pop culture is concerned. And I think they should do what they did in the comics, which is team him up with Daredevil and Human Torch, because we got the Fantastic Four coming in, the Fantastic Four and the X-Men are the answer to the MCU coming back.
I think you're right. Honestly, I do. I think you're right on that.
And I really don't want to see them just cast the 20th Century Fox cast.
No.
I want to see all new people.
Well, that's one of the things we could see a little bit is in Deadpool 3. See what, because Wolverine is coming in, and we'll see what they do with Hugh Jackman. As much as I love Hugh Jackman, the send off. I'm not a big fan. That's another one of the ones I need to rewatch is Logan. So I wasn't a big fan of it. But like he had a great send off. They need to leave him out of the MCU and cast Daniel Radcliffe or somebody. Daniel Radcliffe's short, and I bet he could beef up pretty well. But yeah, I agree with you on that 100%, on both points.
And with the DCU, I mean, it was just getting to be a mess. Like they were in such a hurry to compete with Marvel that they just went about it the wrong way. It was too rushed.
Yeah. Too many writers in the writers' room. You know, too many chefs in the kitchen in the DCU. There are a lot of problems there, but we'll see what the DCEU. We'll see what James Gunn does.
You know what sucks is I think James Gunn is totally capable of saving it. But I think at this point, I think there's such a huge portion of the fan base who's all against him and hates him that it's not going to be successful.
Well,
I think they're going to sabotage. I think even if they're fucking amazing movies, there's going to be people who will dismiss them just for the fact of spite.
I see it every day, man. I'm in all these different Superman fan groups.
Yeah, and I think it sucks. I think
no one can get excited about. Yeah, no one can get excited about Superman Legacy because like everyone's so negative about it. Even though it's like there's no, I hate to say this, like there's no there's no real diversity hires. Like everyone who's hired kind of resembles the characters that they're supposed to play. He just got a great composer with John Murphy who did Sunshine and 28 Days Later, and his music was effective and kick-ass. But you have all the Snyder people like trashing that decision, and it's just unfortunate because like as much as I love the Snyder stuff, like Man of Steel is great. It's an Elseworld story for me where Kal-El is raised by a very cynical Jonathan and what's her name, and
what was her name?
And
why didn't you say that name?
I love it, but I'm open to other people playing.
Yeah.
What's that?
And
I said, why didn't you say that name?
And James is so good. I mean, the 3 Guardians of the Galaxy movies are all good, and his Suicide Squad movie was great, in my opinion.
I have faith. I mean, there's things I worry about, like him having all his friends in the movies that don't belong. Like he cast Michael Rooker. I can't remember who. Did they figure out who he is, Seth? Seth had a good idea for who he could be.
Well, the rumor was that Michael Rooker was going to be playing General Sam Lane, but he'd be perfect as Bibbo.
Yeah, it's just a bit role. But I don't know. I have faith. The casting so far looks good to me. We have more than a year. There will be the only DC not even superhero movie that's coming out next year. I think this year is Joker, and that's not anywhere near what they're doing. It's like DC's taking a full year off. Maybe by the time summer comes around, 2025, people are ready to see a new Superman movie. And I think once we see Corn Sweat in the costume, it might change a lot of things. I don't know.
Totally.
I think based on the costume, because I'm not a huge Cavill costume guy. And Christopher Reeve, I mean, his costume is tops for me. So
I have faith in Gunn to do it right. I just feel he has a good perspective on all this stuff. I like Zack Snyder. I'm not a Zack Snyder hater, and I do like Man of Steel. I do like some of those movies, but there's also something about Zack's aesthetic maybe wasn't the right thing for this world. Like it was right for Watchmen.
I love
I
Watchmen.
thought Watchmen was great. I think it's
Yeah, I
his
love
best.
that
I think it's
movie.
his best movie.
I could probably agree with that.
But
Yeah,
I don't know.
300 was really good.
I don't know if that's right for Superman.
No,
Well,
And I
yeah,
don't-
I mean,
go ahead, Seth. You're
You-
going to
you-
say the
you're-
same thing I'm going to say
you're-
about.
well, I mean, you're totally right, and like, I love Snyder. I love like how he treated his DC films as sort of like very seriously, very epic storytelling, but like he didn't quite capture the essence of the character. Like Superman is supposed to inspire hope and awe, and
Yeah.
you have, and as I mentioned even earlier tonight, not too long ago, where it all comes down with how the Kents were written. So like we have a Superman in this one, which is very serious. Now this was all this was essentially Warner Brothers bringing in Christopher Nolan, who I love as a filmmaker, but like they wanted to use his Dark Knight trilogy as a jumping point. He said no, but he agreed to help them with
Yeah.
kickstarting the DC universe. But so it was like there was a more serious, grounded take,
Grounded
and
take of it.
and the Kents were they were very cynical. And so you had a Superman who was very unsure of himself, and the Kents being like, well, maybe you should let those people die, like, so it was weird. It doesn't match Superman from the comics as much as I love Man of Steel, and that's why I always kind of justify it with it's a different world. It's Earth 27.5 or something. I don't know, but like it's an alternate reality version of Superman, which I appreciate, but he doesn't capture Superman.
I mean, Smallville did it better than Man of Steel and Zack Snyder. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I appreciate the question asked if there were a Superman and all the destruction and all the stuff that happens with Superman, like would he actually be criticized? Would he be more like Spider-Man is, where people are divided on him? Oh, is he a menace or is he a God here to help us, or like what? Are we afraid of him or are we embracing him? I like that idea, but as you said, the spirit of Superman was that he was an inspiration for us, a hope. It doesn't even say that in the movie. Like this means hope. Like it's like, well, you're not really instilling that.
Yeah.
You're, and it sucks because Henry was perfect casting. Like there's something about that guy
totally.
that I just really like, and he's got the right look and the right everything. And and again, I liked the Justice League Snyder cut. I was really just blown away by that. I remember I need to go back and watch it because I didn't expect much because I didn't like the movie that we got. That and really that goes into like who's right for what. Like I don't know all the things, but like the Avengers movie was good. Maybe that was right for him, but maybe the DC thing wasn't. I don't know, but I hate that I know I kind of have this feeling that James Gunn could be the savior that DC hoped he would be, but 50% of the fan base is not going to let it happen. It's kind of like if Ryan Johnson could come back and be the savior of Star Wars, and no one would give him that kudos. Like if he did, like oh fuck him, he did The Last Jedi, he sucks, we hate him. Like, but what if he actually came back and produced the exact Star Wars movie that we always wanted, and they would still be fan base like, he sucks, I hate him, anything he does. So there's just there's so much tension behind who's making it that I don't know. That's the problem. Like we're judging it. Like we talked about constructive criticism, when people are criticizing whatever James Gunn's doing without even seeing the product, and that's people are just primed. We talked about priming, are primed to tear something apart, and we do it to ourselves. Like, I mean, could we say that Batman versus Superman was hurt by that early meme of sad Batman that was going around constantly of Ben Affleck?
Yeah.
Like, you're already ruining the movie for yourself by making fun of it before it even comes out. And when you go into theater, without you realizing
the problem that I've been seeing, like especially in all these groups. I'm sorry, man.
No, go ahead. You're good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have this glitchy thing and then the delay, so I don't mean to interrupt, Nate.
You didn't interrupt me.
And now I forgot my point. So I apologize, man.
Well, I was talking about James Gunn and like you talk about the groups that you're seeing and the responses to James Gunn and the Superman and what's coming and how they're already deciding whether they're going to like it or not. And pretty much they're all like, I'm going to hate it. It's going to be a bunch of people going, when the movie comes out, see, I told you. It's going to be that response. Just like a Rob Zombie movie. I told you it was going to suck. But it could be great. And they may have otherwise liked it if they'd gone into it with another headspace, another warm cup of coffee.
Don't do it, Seth.
Yeah, well, and that's another thing too. Is like, I see all these people now. They're so desperate to attack anything that's not Snyder's, and like I've been seeing people attack even the Christopher Reeve films now. And it's like this whole precedent where only Henry Cavill can play Superman, where I love multiple actors who have played Superman, George Reeves, Christopher Reeve, Dean Cain, Tom Welling, Brandon Routh, Tyler Hoechlin. Like, they're all really good as the character. And like, I'm willing to accept another actor playing the part, but there's so many people out there who are not. Like, they just want one person and that's it. It's a shame.
Yeah. I'm excited about Corn Sweat. I'm very excited about him. Oh, and yeah, I you know what I hope that this new Superman movie brings to all the fans. They're going to see it. Most of them will see this movie. They're going to be curious. You know what it's going to do? I think bring hope to the DCU.
Which is it going to be the first one to come out of this whole thing?
Yeah.
Well, there's some kind of animated thing.
Superman's supposed to bring hope, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it'll bring hope. That's what this means, like a winding river. Anyway, oh man, I'd love to just sit and chat about freaking superhero movies. Maybe we should do that on the other channel, Nate. If you ever want to, we don't do it very often. We do. You should come over and just chit chat about some of these superhero movies with us sometime.
Sure.
Because it's a blast. Once we figure out what night we're going to do it, right, Seth?
Yeah,
every night.
I said, say when, motherfucker.
Say when. Anyway, yeah, I've got to go. Helena just got out of the shower, so I'm going to put her in bed and get Reynolds ready to bed. I can talk to you motherfuckers forever. I'm just saying. Love you guys. Love you guts, as Cosplay Chris says. You guys ever watch that guy?
Cosplay Chris.
Yeah, he does. He's Australian.
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah,
I love that guy, man. He's a prop aficionado, which I know you'd love, Nate. He gets into action figures, which I love, and the prop stuff and movies and such. And he's a big superhero fan, Seth. I think all of us would love him. I do already, so I definitely. He's got two different channels, Cosplay Chris and his regular channel where he does just regular reviews. He just saw the Lost Boys for the first time a couple weeks ago. Yeah, he said that. I'm like, what? How can you have not seen Lost Boys and be a horror fan at this point? That seems bizarre. That'd be another good topic. As a horror fan, what's one that is well known by the community that is almost a must that you have not seen? Is there one? Probably not for you.
There are. There was two that I saw just last year, like December, that I never watched. I'd never watched Scanners or Videodrome.
Oh,
the Cronenberg movies. I had never watched them, so I watched.
Today's the anniversary of its release,
and they're both on. They're both Criterion movies.
Mm-hmm. I got the Criterion of Videodrome. It's fucking weird.
It's fucking weird. But yeah, there's a few, but not many. No, there's a lot of. I mean, anything post 1980 that's popular, I've probably seen.
Yeah.
Other than the Serbian film.
Right, I'll never watch that one.
I'll never watch that one.
Brian and I used to bring that up. Oh, when are we going to talk about the Serbian film? I'm like, never. I'm never going to watch that movie. But yeah, it sounds like we got some decent ideas for topics for other than just doing movies, which I like doing both. You know, talking movies and talking about just general things. You know. So we'll be back next week after the Super Bowl. I gotta watch it, even though I said I wasn't gonna watch it. I gotta watch it.
I used to always watch it for the commercials.
Yeah,
I was a big I used to love football. I grew up my family loved football, and when I first got into football, I was in the mid '80s, and I was a big Walter Payton fan. I was big. That's when the Bears won. I mean, the Super Bowl Shuffle, all that, William Refrigerator Perry and all that with Jim McMahon. It was like this huge thing, and I got into it, and I just fell in love with Walter Payton, and I watched that. And then when Payton retired, I kind of moved over and liked the 49ers, a big Jerry Rice, Joe Montana fan and stuff. And then ended up being a big Bills fan in high school, and Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas and all that were playing. Of course, you know, fucking Cowboys all the goddamn time. But
yes.
I would say that era of the Bills with the Thomas and Kelly and all that was probably the last time I was really into football.
It was a good time. I'll never forget. Yeah, fuck the Chiefs, but yeah, I listen. I was born a Raiders fan, and with that, you're born into hatred towards the Chiefs. So can't help it. It's my birthright. Yeah, well, I definitely want to. Seth, are you down to do something next week then?
Yeah.
I don't even know if you watched the Super Bowl or not.
He can't miss Taylor.
Oh, I'm going to. I'm rooting for the 49ers. That's my brother's team, my brother Brett. So
Reynolds likes the 49ers.
Rooting for them.
And Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy are awesome, and so is George Kittle. So Jared probably will not be available, as his favorite team is the Chiefs, and I don't think if they win, I could even talk. I don't think I can even look at them. But anyway,
you might knock that Subway sandwich out of his hand.
Yeah. Yes.
Fuck your Chiefs.
Fuck your tuna sandwich. Get out here. Don't forget on this coming Wednesday, Seth and I are going to talk about Curse of Chucky.
Good movie.
Good movie. Got the franchise back on track, and then they fucked it up making a show. So that'll be on Wednesday, and the next week after the Super Bowl, whatever time the Super Bowl ends, we're just gonna go live and have just a doozy of a conversation. So it'll be fun, and then after that, we'll get back on track. We'll do some movies that made us. Fun topic. We'll do some more movies I want to do Brightburn. That's another one I want to do. If we
James Gunn.
Yeah, it's in the Well, I guess it's not really a horror movie, but we could do the one with Rain Wilson. Jesus Christ. And now I forgot the name of the movie.
Movie with Rainn Wilson?
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah, that movie's awesome.
I love Super.
I do too. Good ass movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, we talk about stuff like that. It's not a horror movie, but who cares?
Kind of is.
Yeah.
Looking at the right context.
Yeah.
It's pretty horrifying characters.
It's so fun though.
Shut up, crime.
Shut up, crime. Yeah, it's so
Kevin
fun.
Bacon. That was one of his best roles.
Right. Yeah, Rainn Wilson plays that part so well, and I love that movie. It's one that never gets talked about. So maybe we will do a special show on that, since it's not technically a horror movie. If anybody complains, unfollow. It's that easy.
I showed up here thinking you were talking about the Joe Pesci movie.
Oh my god, that movie! I remember that movie. I was big into Joe Pesci in the early '90s because of movies like Home Alone, of course, and then Goodfellas, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna watch that movie. Eight Heads in the Duffel Bag, I think, was one I watched because I liked him. He was in that, right? Eight Heads in the Duffel Bag. Yeah, that was a good one. But anyway, I'm gonna keep going if I don't stop.
Yes.
So thanks, guys. Have a great night, and we'll see everybody who watches us Wednesday for Curse of Chucky. And Seth, I'll see you then. Nate, we'll see you soon. Have a great week, and yeah, go 49ers.
Evil That's Tonight.